This is Dr. Rob Harder with the Nonprofit Leadership Podcast, Making Your World Better. What does it take to be an effective nonprofit leader today? What are the biggest challenges? What are the biggest obstacles? How should nonprofits fundraise in an economy that is constantly changing? All of these reasons combined led me to start this show. And it's my hope that through this series, people can learn not only what it takes to be an effective nonprofit organization, but to hear from effective leaders who are successfully making a positive impact in their communities. We hope you enjoy the show as together we hear how they are making their world better. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nonprofit Leadership Podcast. Well, if you've been following my podcast for a while, you know that I am now a certified coach and I'm building my coaching and consulting business. And so if you are there as a nonprofit leader and you feel stuck or you feel like you want to scale your organization but not sure how to do that, or you really want to grow your fundraising acumen but need some help, I know I have learned so much from others around me as I've gone through my career. Having a coach can be such a game changer. And so if that is something you're looking for, I would love to have an opportunity to talk to you and just share what I can provide. You can find more information at my website, robharder.com. And I'm always happy to give a free coaching session to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like, what your need is, and if there's a match. So I just encourage you to check that out. It's been fun to have some of my listeners actually reach out to me and seek that very thing. And so I just want to make sure you're aware of that if you're a regular listener. And again, you can just go over to robharder.com to find out more, or you can email me at rob@robharder.com. Well, hey, today, so I've got a very special guest, Dr. Johanna Moya Fabregas, and she is the executive director of Con Mi Madre. And she has this unique approach to this nonprofit organization you're going to learn about. She left the higher education space in order to go into the nonprofit sector to lead this organization. And she brought with her a really interesting perspective, a very effective approach. And you'll find different things that, for example, the college persistency rate for the organization she leads is very high. And so she's doing some really innovative and unique things and really making a difference, not just with the students she's working with, but the families that they're part of. So I think you're going to really enjoy today's show. As always, I love having you part of this community. Thanks for tuning in today. This podcast is sponsored by DonorBox. DonorBox, helping you help others with the best donation forms in the business. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nonprofit Leadership Podcast. I've got a very special guest today, Johanna Moya Fabregas, and she is the leader of a really special nonprofit you're going to hear a little bit more about. And so, Johanna, first of all, thank you for joining me on the show today.
Thank you, Rob, for having me here.
You bet. Absolutely. Well, thanks so much again for taking time out of your busy schedule. I love it. We talked before we hit record, just you're in the midst of it. I mean, you are doing the work and you're in the trenches. And I love that. I love having people like you on the show to talk about what you're doing, because I'm sure you wear many, many hats. And so for my listeners, why don't we just give an overview of what first inspired you to transition from a career in education, as I've learned, to leading a nonprofit organization? We could start there.
Yes, really happened kind of by accident, but there's like a thread that has, been throughout all of the kind of careers and jobs I've done. And it's having impacting youth through education. So I love teaching. I love research. I've worked both as a professor at the college level. I've also worked as a teacher. I was a teacher for a brief period of time at the high school level. And I mentored throughout my life, but seeing that I could do that through an organization at a larger scale and not just mentor and support and teach 101, but help build an ecosystem that continues, long after I won't be on this earth, and that to me was very motivating. And then seeing myself in a lot of the people that we serve, because I wish I had an organization like the one we have. When I was a first-gen college student, as an immigrant, as someone who moved to this country and had to learn the language and navigate all of that with whatever support I could muster, like having an organization that does that is really important. So I'm very, fortunate to get to do this kind of on the other side and lead that work.
Love that. Well, good. Well, let's talk about that specifically now. You work at Con Mi Madre as the executive director there. Perhaps you could start by just telling us a bit about more the overall program, the approach, and specifically, how does your curriculum address both social emotional learning along with college readiness for your students?
Yes. So I'll tell you first, Con Mi Madre means with my mother in Spanish. And madre is also an acronym, means mothers and daughters raising expectations. So we are, yeah, we're a dual generation program that works with both girls 6th through 12th grade and through college as well, and with the support of their moms or a loving adult in their family that wants to be part of the program. And the the end more tangible goal of the program is to achieve a post-secondary degree and be prepared to enter the workforce. The way that we get there is through social emotional support with academic prep components. So we're working basically from the inside out, both through curriculum, an in house curriculum that we've developed at the organization and updated after the pandemic. And we have partnerships with different schools districts. This year, we're aiming to serve about 600 students plus 600 moms across different schools. And where we meet with the students every other week, the first week is always to have a topic, for instance, explore who you are as a teenager. Like, what are you, what are your goals? And that might sound very simple, but when you start addressing that, you realize that students don't always have the chance to really dream big and explore these things at home because parents are busy, they're surviving. and so we start with those types of conversations at the younger age when they're in the 6th grade. I'm actually a mom and my daughter is in our program. And it is great. And as they get into high school, then we start focusing more on college prep topics like FAFSA, letters, what classes to take so that you're college ready. And so it's a combination of affirming who they are, conveying from the beginning that they have what it takes, bringing culture as part of this process, validating cultural practices, family histories, and saying this is something to be proud of, and it's something that has made you resilient, and it has given you already a lot of tools that you might have not recognized to navigate the path ahead. So that's the curriculum portion of it. We also, yeah, so it's multiple parts. We also have a parent program where we meet with the moms or dads or grandmas, whoever's part of it, throughout the year for different workshops to support their own professional, like emotional development, whatever topic they identify that they want to learn more about. Say, for instance, we had a few moms who wanted to know more about gender identity, and we brought an expert to talk to them. And it was really well attended so that they learn how to talk to their kids about this and not feel awkward or uncomfortable because this is not something they grew up with. So we have those. We also have a networking group with our moms where they can form community and help each other, especially when their kids are off to school through that emptiness syndrome and that fear. So there's that part. And then we have a leadership series called the Somos el Futuro, which means we are the future leadership series. That it's all of our out of school programming. So we have workshops throughout the years where we bring in experts, whether it's health, workforce readiness, internships, specific careers, so that they can learn about all of these topics. They happen in the evening. And then we do 2 college trips every year where we take the students and the moms that they're familiar. So if anyone, imagine someone started a program in the 6th grade, because we follow the student until they graduate. By the time they get to the 12th grade, they would have visited multiple colleges. They would have asked questions in both English and Spanish. They're ready. So we do those every year, and they're really well attended. And then at the end of the year, we do a beautiful graduation ceremony where we award scholarships that we raise funds for throughout the year to students going off to college and those persistent in college. So it's full circle. That's my favorite time of the year. you know?
I love that. Sounds like a lot of different things you're doing. And I know along the way, you do a lot of collaboration. And of course, I've talked on the show many times about collaboration, how important it is for nonprofits to be effective, is to have effective collaboration. Give us an example of how you have sought to really create some key collaborations with local school districts and your organization that you lead.
Yes. So with the school districts, we have contracts with the school districts, to work with the students. And that collaboration is key because when you're thinking about the end goal of the school district and ours is that the student is social emotionally developed and well in according to their age, and that they have the necessary supports to graduate and move on to the next step, and they have that guidance. School districts cannot do that alone, and schools cannot do that alone. They're already, they're overwhelmed by the demands that they have, and especially this year in Texas, like funding being cut. So it's challenging what the expectations that are put on teachers and administrators, counselors. So we, with the schools, we form a partnership where we really serve as a bridge between those students and the school and the families. The school gets the student during the day, and sometimes they get parental engagement, sometimes they don't. And that portion, I mean, everyone in education knows that that parental engagement is key for academic success, no matter what age, even through college. And right, so what we bring in is that we have the connection with the student inside the school and the connection with the family of the student outside of the school ongoing. And we're building that relationship. So when, for instance, we track students' grades and attendance, when there's an issue, we can step in, not from a disciplinary standpoint, but more from a, okay, what's happening? We can reach out to the families that we know, like how can we support. There have been cases, speaking of partnerships, where our students, we've had a students facing homelessness, or a student even, who had a health condition for one of the parents. So those are the moments that we're able to step in and say, okay, we have a wide network of community organizations in those spaces that we can draw in. And rather than say, here's a list of resources, call them, we know who to call, we'll connect them and do a warm handoff, and then we can check in. Are you okay? Our program is not wraparound services, but we end up doing that through the relationships that we're building to support families. So that's a way that we collaborate, and there's a lot of other collaborations too with different organizations.
No, great example. Well, and it's noteworthy to see that Con Mi Madre has achieved a 72% college persistence rate among its high school graduates. That's impressive. So, first of all, well done. Congratulations. What strategies have you implemented to reach this impressive percentage?
I think one of the most basic ones is the relationship building throughout the years, because our students, when they get to college, we have been with many of them since they were 11, 12 years old, all the way through high school graduation. In fact, we have some people on our staff who went and got their master's degree and came to work with us because this had an impact on them, our programs. So it's building a long-term relationship, and that is not just two-way, the student and us, but they're part of a larger community. That organization is like a big family. So we have the parents of those students, we have other community organizations that provide supports that, so, like for instance, there's Breakthrough of Central Texas. They do a lot of the academic support. We partner with them, so we have students that have gone through their programs. We supporting the parents, for instance, through, there's an organization called EGBI. It's like a small business incubator. So you're supporting the parent, that communicates to that student from an early age that you care not just about a number or an achievement on paper, you care about the well-being of their whole family. So when they're going through college, we have a college program that is more of that one-on-one support. So when you're away away from home, and something comes up and you feel like you don't belong, or you feel you're facing an anxiety, or a situation popped up, the student has someone to reach out to. They have a coordinator that is checking in with them throughout the year. So there is that one-on-one support with someone who already knows you. And I think that in itself goes a long way. And then if that's the more emotional part, and then there's the preparation leading up to college of what college was going to look like. They've been to different schools. They've met professors. They know as much as possible what to expect before stepping into that new space. Which I remember when I stepped on a college campus the first time, and I went to a big school, I was very overwhelmed, and I wish somebody had walked me through that before. So it's the relationship and community building that that has that impact. And when they go through difficult situations, so to give you an example, we've had students whose families. We had a student whose mom was very hesitant about her going away to college in another state, and it was very much, this is my baby, and we need her at home, and she's never been away, and like no one in my family has done this. So through a lot of conversation and reassurance, both working, the parent coordinator working with the mom and the student working coordinator working with the student, we reassure them this is something that she can do. You, your role in supporting her is really important, like emotionally, so that she can accomplish this. So off the student went to college. Freshman year, there was a moment it got cold, the weather was different, and she got really sad and got homesick, and the food wasn't the same. And called her mom halfway through and was like, I don't want to be here. Like, what was I thinking? I'm going home. And at that moment, it was the mom who stepped in, the same mom who at first was very hesitant, stepped in and was like, you signed up for this. You have what it takes. It's going to be difficult the first year, but you'll do it. And that mom became the strongest supporter. And that mom had never gone to college herself or finished high school. But later, when the student graduated and we would talk, she talked about how that relationship with her mom that we helped build throughout our programming became so important in that moment where she felt very alone and didn't know what to do. So that's how you see that persistence happening. It's a 360 effort.
We'll be right back. Are you ready to revolutionize your advocacy efforts and significantly impact policy change? Discover Quorum and level up your advocacy to better educate more lawmakers. Quorum is the only unified public affairs platform that empowers nonprofits to map, track, change, and report on the policy landscape, all in one place. Explore how Quorum Grassroots helps nonprofits create compelling campaigns in minutes. The result? Your nonprofit doesn't just participate in the advocacy, it drives it. Quorum, where influence meets innovation. You can learn more at quorum.us. Are you looking for an easy and effective way to boost your nonprofit's donations? Look no further than DonorBox, the online fundraising platform that streamlines your fundraising efforts, maximizes donations, and simplifies giving for your supporters. With DonorBox, you can create beautiful donation forms, accept digital wallet payments, track donations, and send auto receipts. And the best part? There are no setup or monthly fees and no long-term contracts required. So what are you waiting for? Visit donorbox.org today to get started. That is donorbox.org. Hey, friends, and thanks so much for listening to the Nonprofit Leadership Podcast. I want to let you know that I've recently become a professional certified coach. With my nearly 30 years of nonprofit experience, I know firsthand how hard you work as a leader. I also know how important it is to have someone you can call on to get help with the barriers, the leadership challenges that you will face both professionally and personally. And I really want people to thrive, to become all they were meant to become by providing coaching and consulting services. So if coaching is something you've always been interested in, but maybe weren't quite sure what it was all about, I encourage you to reach out. You can go to my website, robharder.com, or just email me at rob@robharder.com. I would happy to provide a free sample coaching session so you can determine if coaching is for you. All right, thanks again for tuning in. Now back to the show. Well, impressive that you've done such a good job with that. And tell me more about your background in public education, because you've obviously had a lot of that experience. You bring it into your current role, and you've had experience, of course, in higher education in general. How did that influence, would you say, your approach to nonprofit leadership today?
Yes, I think there's different ways, right? There's the approach in leading the organization and leading our team. It's which I take it from. This is where the educator, kind of the professor, comes in me, and it's very much from a growth mentality and from an asset mapping mentality. So our team, everyone that is part of our team, and we have an amazing team, we're always identifying what feels natural to you. What are the areas that you feel strong in? How do we work together to enhance those strengths? And along the way, to keep, because I learned this in the classroom, I stepped into being a professor in my early 20s, very naive. And I thought people were just going to show up really excited to learn, and I was just going to teach. And then I realized, no, first I got to get them excited about learning so that then I can teach something of value. But so I realized that, that goes beyond a college student at any age, people keeping people engaged and challenged. So one thing we do a lot at the organization is, because we're a small nonprofit, it works well. Like identifying, okay, as you're doing your job, say as a coordinator, what with working with a student, is there something else that you identify that is really fulfilling that you didn't know? So we've had people who say, you know what, I see you go out and like do development and talk to donors, or I want to learn more about that. So when somebody expresses that, we're like, okay, let's come with me and let's do it. I've had people who are really intrigued by, doing an interview and being on TV. We get invitations and it's like, well, you want to do a portion of this or you want to come and try it out. And it's that challenge, but with support so that there's a culture of learning. And if you have a team that has that culture and that mentality, when they're working with the students and the parents, they're going to naturally bring that into their approach of how they inspire, how they motivate and challenge our participants to accomplish really great things.
Oh, that's good. What a great influence it's been for you, obviously, and helping you continue to lead and navigate all the different challenges you face. So, how does your organization's focus on multicultural education specifically, as well as empowerment, impact the community you serve? And is there anything else that you feel like, as you've been there for a while now, what sets you apart with your approach? Maybe you could talk to any of those things there.
Yes. So the multicultural piece, and it's more rooted in this notion of doing the work through like with cultural IQ. So not just limiting to celebrating a culture or celebrating a holiday, or just because you're bilingual and you're speaking someone's language or you're eating the same foods, that is not necessarily enough to convey this cultural affirmation that you need in order to build self-confidence within a student so that they can go on and then be ready to learn things. So we start, and I always say this, working from the inside out, because we first try to get to know the student and understand who they are and how they see themselves and the culture that they come from. And we try to convey, and this is something that I didn't receive through my education process, and a lot of the people that I work with didn't. So we're really excited that we can get to do this notion that you can show up as a professional as your full self with your culture, that you don't need to check it in a box and leave it somewhere else just to be expressed at home or with your family or within your cultural circle. That showing up as your full self, it's not only great, but it gives you a certain advantage. Like talking about how having two languages gives you cognitively an advantage. Just conveying all those things to our students so that they are convinced and they understand that me, as the way I am now, without learning anything else, I already have what it takes to learn all these things. And that is key, because if you don't convey that first, then you're not, ready to learn a lot of other things because you don't believe you can, or you don't believe that you matter and your culture matters. And I'm by training a historian, so I think it's very important to always talk about what this reality would have looked is if your mom, if your grandma, if anyone before you was in this position, how different the context would be, and what you're able and set to achieve right now. And then when you look at your family's sacrifices, it's not something to be ashamed of, or the difficulties they face. It's actually, those are experiences that are part of your story and that make you stronger. So that's the multicultural part, is being in touch with that. And then in addition to that, obviously we celebrate all the festivities with things that our families request. So if they want to do a loteria, we do that. If they want to use dance, we bring foods, we do potlucks, so that there's that sense of my culture is also welcome and celebrated and enjoyed by others that are not part of it. So it's a little bit of all of that.
Okay. Love it. No, good approach. Well, and speaking of events and gatherings, you do an annual event, and typically it's in April, as I understand it. Why have you decided to provide this, and what kind of impact has it had so far with the Latino community specifically?
Yeah, so that event started 16 years ago as
Okay, 16 years ago. Okay.
16 or 17. It's going to be 17 now, as a brunch, as a fundraising brunch to celebrate the community that supported Con Mi Madre. And at the time, it was local Latino community leaders that really fundraised and kept the organization going. Because this organization started as a project of the Junior League. So it took a while before it became a nonprofit. And they kept it going. And then as the years went by, it became a bigger event. It turned into a night event and turned into a gala. Now it's an event it's called the Corazon Awards. It brings together about 300 people from the community, and we honor three community members that either are an example of what we want our girls to accomplish, or they've supported our mission throughout the years. And then it becomes a place that gathers, officials like from the school district. It gathers teachers, it gathers community leaders in all sorts of areas. We recognize and we raise funds to put into our programming, and we have a separate fund from that goes to scholarships that we invite those same people to come at the end in May and award the scholarships. The students, by the way, don't know who's getting the scholarship until the event. So it's really exciting to see the reaction. And we work with another partner that just works with scholarships taken in the applications, who rates them and everything, so that there's like that separation. But that main event, it's a celebration of our accomplishments. It's a party. There's a lot of dancing, a lot of joy, because one of our values is really to do our work with a lot of joy. So there's always a lot of laughter, good humor, good music to remind us of why we're doing this, and to celebrate that, and show those accomplishments. And for our staff, that event is an opportunity to come and celebrate them and the work that they've done throughout the year, and like see it, network and engage with a community that sometimes they don't have the chance to talk to, and to celebrate their work.
Right. No, it's good. All sounds good. Well, for my listeners who are listening in and want to learn a little bit more about you, they want to find out a little bit more about your organization, where would you send them? How could they do that?
Very easy. So our website is www.conmimadre.org. You'll find a lot of the basics of what we do. But our social media, our Instagram, which is Con Mi Madre, it's where you will see updates of everything that we have going on. And it's more engaging. The website is kind of more static information, but the social media on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn is where we're posting more of what's happening in the day-to-day, different ways of getting involved. We have people getting involved locally and in other states too, whether it's, they want to make a donation, they can do that. Sometimes they even want to become involved, in connecting more with our work and seeing how can I come up with an idea to support remotely what you're doing, or to lead a workshop. And there's room for everyone to become involved and support. There's a lot of ways of doing so. And we're very flexible, and we're always open to innovative ideas.
Love that. Well, good. Well, Dr. Fabregas, thank you so much for being on the show. Thanks for all you're doing. It's obvious you're doing a lot of good work. You're impacting a lot of people's lives, and to be able to take some time off to share your insights today has just been great. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Rob. I really appreciate being here.
Hey, friends. Well, I wanted you to know that this podcast can be found on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, Google Podcasts, and wherever you listen to other podcasts. I also want to encourage you to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with others. This will actually help us get this great content out to more nonprofit leaders just like you. You can also join the Nonprofit Leadership Podcast community. Find other resources and interviews of past guests all on my website, nonprofitleadershippodcast.org. Well, thanks again for listening. And until next time, keep making your world better. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, the Nonprofit Leadership Podcast. Go to YouTube and look up Nonprofit Leadership Podcast. We'll see you there.